Welcome back, everybody, to episode 166 of the Lookout Podcast. I am Meelz. I am here with the returning LJ. It's great to have you back, my friend. Welcome back.
I'm happy to be back. Shout out to you. Shout out to Cyrus. Shout out to AD for holding it down last week on a great episode. I'm kind of scared. I feel like my job's in jeopardy.
No, it's really not, but it's interesting. It's like this is like your Super Bowl, and you had to miss it, unfortunately. So it is what it is. But we're not alone, as we weren't alone these last two episodes. We have none other than host of Subsly, Dubsly. You may know him as Versace Vegeta on many platforms, but we know him as Jay. Welcome to the Lookout again, my friend.
Very good to be back. What's going on, partners?
Hey, man. It's been a long time. Do you feel, when you're between seasons of the show, how do you necessarily feel now? Because you got a couple under the belt now.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I have been in gear for season 4. We're just going to be covering a really big topic. So I've been watching a lot. So that way I don't have to watch anything in the weeks between actually recording. Watching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood in one weekend just burned me. It killed me.
I would have never done it. Mind you, we're doing we're
that
literally doing it over the next like 6-7 weeks.
It burned me, man. But I was so excited because it was my first time watching it, so I couldn't stop. It kind of like took me back to my early 20s of just sitting through and watching the whole series, right?
That series is so much information overload, though.
It is. It really is. Thank God I had the basis of the original series, so that way I kind of got how the world worked. Right. Otherwise, that would have been a lot to just deep dive into. But because of that, I have been going ahead and just watching a few of the different pieces of source material that we're going to be covering in season 4. So that way I've been keeping my mind in gear. So this was something I was like, awesome, cool. Like, let's record something because I've been in pod mode since the end of season 3 still.
So for the listeners who are Subsly, Dubsly fans, what you're saying is season 4 is coming soon.
Yes, very soon.
Okay.
Very soon.
Okay. That's very, very exciting. Because we've been making a lot of announcements on the shows, and I can't wait to make the announcement of when your show is coming back, because we got a lot of things going up. On the lookout, I almost said the A show. On the lookout, I've been in A show gear, but
I get it.
We've got, of course, it's great.
It's Road to Mania for you. You're super locked in.
Absolutely. No, but we got a lot of things going on over here, man. Like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. For those who are interested in when we're actually beginning, because we gave the February date, it'll actually begin in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from this episode, February 19th, we will begin going over Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. We will not do it in one weekend. I promise you that. I'll tell you that right now. That was just kind of talking about it. It's like the second anime that I ever really, I don't want to say second anime that I watched, because I've watched multiple anime, but when I was pretty much like, I'm going to watch Dragon Ball Z over and over and over and over and over and over again for like 20 years. This was the one that took me out. I think this was the one that Jeff suggested, and it was like, hey, you need to watch this one. It's totally different than what you expected. And it pretty much opened my eyes and kind of like opened the landscape of like, oh, they're doing different kind of things other than just kind of like this fighting genre, stuff like that. So I look forward to going back over it again. I haven't seen it since I watched it for the first time. And yeah, we're going to do that in 2 weeks. Other than that, man, we don't have much news. I mean, this episode, we're going to be going over Netflix's YuYu Hakusho live action adaptation. So it dropped 2 months ago on Netflix. Great time to drop it. Holidays, people are usually off from work. People can usually binge it. It's a 5-episode binge, albeit it's like 40-minute to 60-minute episodes. But still a cool enough binge for you to get involved with it. So we'll be talking about it this episode. But of course, there are a couple things we need to touch on before. I want to touch on probably the biggest thing. Something about doing this on Sundays always gets us. There's always something that happens on Sundays. And the big reveal today is, for those of you, let me ask you this. I'll ask both of you this. Leaks like spoilers from manga, are you interested in reading them, or are you interested in waiting for like the official either visually or like the official kind of like release? Where are you guys at with spoilers for stuff?
Man, I'm just too deep in the trenches in this game. Like, that's how I used to read manga back before we had this app. So I can't act like I'm against them. Leaks, I remember every Wednesday reading the One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto scans,
Right.
type thing, right? So I can't act like I've never enjoyed them. As a matter of fact, like I said, that's how I've read so much weekly manga back in the day. But nowadays, it's more of something where I'm like, hey, I want to see what that's going to be like whenever I do read it in Shonen Jump.
What about you, LJ?
Well, back when I was doing a little show called Big Eyes, I would double dip, so I would read the scans and obviously read the officials. When the scans and the leaks came though, I wasn't reading them with the intent of like, all right, I'm trying to get the full understanding of the story or the full understanding of the chapter or whatever. It was always just kind of like a quick little like, okay, I get the gist. Cool, because when you get the official scans, obviously dialogue changes a lot. I think that's one thing that people don't always notice or see, but there's major differences sometimes in the dialogue, and I feel that is what sets the scans and the officials release kind of apart. And because I think with the official release, obviously I feel that you get more of the mangaka's intent of like, okay, this is what I'm really trying to do with these characters, or what they're trying to say, or what the situation really means. I think that scans are good though, once again, for kind of getting the big picture of like, okay, this is what's happening. Like, that's really it. Maybe something big happens. You're kind of just like, oh, like, I get to see it a little early. But I think to get a full understanding of a chapter or a full understanding of a story, read the official. And it sucks too, because I feel that there's a lot of things that I read strictly off scans for the simple fact that there is no like real English translation of them. Aoashi's one of them. I love that manga, but it's only been translated in, it's only been translated into French, and outside of the Japanese edition of it. But yeah, so I mean, it's a game though. Like Jay said, it's just like, you've been in this game so long. My bad. You've been in this game so long, you kind of understand both sides, and like kind of, there was definitely a time where it's just like, before the apps, before everything, you just had to go online, you had to find it.
Exactly.
Mess around and destroy your family computer just to read the chapter for a week. But
trying to read JoJo's 10 years ago was you didn't know what was really going on. I'm gonna see you that way.
I think in terms of spoilers, and usually it just comes from various spoiler accounts now on Twitter, it's been pretty much aggregated. So you'll have this fan account who essentially also is a translator account who also posts these things. So over the last number of months, just in my own thing, I have two that I follow, and one's for My Hero and one's for JJK. And I pretty much follow them, and I have them set for the notifications thing, because I just like, I don't know, because one, they have to delete it. They can't have them up. So by the time the sun rises, all the spoilers are deleted. But there's something about like sitting up at 12 a.m. and like watching all these things roll in, and kind of like watching the reaction of the community just involved as the spoilers come through, as each line, as each tweet, as each section of the chapter comes through, and people just kind of like very excited for it. That's what makes me more so interested in this kind of like spoiler culture, I guess, with manga, because I think it's very community based, and also it can be a little bit like, toxic as well, especially if it isn't translated well, because then they will let you know.
Yes.
But I like the community of it. I say that to say the big news that came out today was that essentially these spoiler accounts, especially the one from Japan who was leaking all of it, which would then be translated by people in various countries, not even the United States. It's like just legal, could be in Brazil or something like that, and just translate or something along those lines. But it was informed that they are, I mean, essentially they locked up. They were arrested. There were 2 leakers essentially arrested in terms of leaking Shonen Jump or purchasing the copies early from whoever they're purchasing from, or maybe they're the people who are purchasing from. It says NHK reports that 3 foreigners have been arrested for violating the copyright law by posting images of weekly Shonen Jump series online. These suspects purchased the magazine at stores before its release date. That's how leaks used to work in the United States, actually, for music, which is so interesting. Sometimes, in terms of like leaked music, how it happened back in the day before everything went to streaming, it would either be someone who was producing the album, not producing, but like on the production line for the album, like making the actual physical CDs and going through the production line. Someone would actually steal them off the production line and then go sell them or leak them or something along those lines. Or it was the retailers themselves who would get it a couple days early so they could stock it on the shelves. They would also leak the albums as well. So this is very like old school 2005-esque hit on the leaking community. She also informs that police are investigating websites in which One Piece and Jujutsu Kaisen were published before the release of the magazine. Images depict evidence collected, including scans, raw images, posts on social media. So they are cracking it down. I don't advise anyone to look at this report if you do not like spoilers. It is not literally, they spoil like everything here. Especially a major spoiler, like legitimately major spoiler. I'm surprised. I guess it's a chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen which is at the center of all of this, and it's probably the most viral chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen that's ever existed thus far. So I wouldn't go check it out any further other than hearing my voice if you don't actually want to be spoiled. But it's interesting how they're doing this now, and it seems like they're cracking down. Essentially, what's going to happen is they get it leaked the day before it's actually released. So essentially, the leaks are just going to be a day. It's going to be a day delayed. So it's not really anything to worry about. But, just a heads up. It's like... it's just going to be a day late. So that's interesting that they're cracking down on this. One more bit of news that I want to talk to you about, Jay, because I'm sure you'll talk about it on Subslide Dubslide in the future as well. There is a new Dragon Ball game. What is up with this, man?
Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Man, listen. This is the game I've been waiting for.
Talk about it.
God knows how long. The Budokai Tenkaichi series that, I'm sure we all grew up with on PS2 is coming back. It was originally titled as the Dragon Ball Sparking series in Japan. The original developers, Dimps, all coming back. We have the original studio producer, everyone like that was majorly involved from like the top with the Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi series is come back for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I'm really excited for it, just because I've been playing the mod of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 for God knows how long. That's got all the current sort of characters in it. And
man, we got AD and J on our network, bro. We gotta be careful with these 2 tech niggas. We gonna get jammed up next playing with y'all. Well, AD and J gotta mess around and have the game 4 months early. Hey man, I just downloaded it. Oh man, I'm scared of y'all. I'm scared of you guys.
Oh man, don't worry. When it comes to stuff like that, I might allude to something, but I will always for sure buy the game itself. Yeah, for sure. Especially for a game like this, because like I mentioned, I've been waiting for this game for 15 plus years. It feels like, but it's going to have the most expansive roster. Every Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game honestly had the most expansive roster. You went one game, it had a bigger roster than the last, right? But this one's continuing. Yes. Yeah, right. They're continuing that same sort of vibe. Now,
did they release like the first 23 characters is going to be on there?
Yeah, they were all Goku and Vegeta.
Yeah, I was gonna say 11 of them or something like that were Goku. Yeah. The 23. Yeah. That's hilarious.
They announced those. They've announced other characters as well, which is pretty cool. But I feel like it does fall in line with how the games worked before. You would have the base level of the character you could play as. If you wanted to, you could transform into other forms, or you could choose the other form as a single character as you wanted to. And like, let's say you picked like Super Saiyan 1 Goku, you could still transform into 2 or 3, but you just started as 1, right? So it is kind of a like padding the numbers in the sort of like, oh, we have this many characters. Really, it's just that character in all these different forms, and you can start the form. But it is really cool. You'll be able to do your favorite Dragon Ball battles or what if battles of all time. Like graphically, it looks amazing. It looks like it really holds up.
Meelz, you gotta Meelz. What's your Dragon Ball what if battle?
Good lord, that's a good question. I've never actually considered it. Mine is everything that happens in the manga that hasn't happened yet in the anime that I would love to happen in the anime. So those are all my what ifs because what if they actually continue the fucking Super anime? That's my what if.
Give up on that dream.
Yeah,
you know what's crazy is that whenever they drop it, it's still gonna do numbers.
It's Daima now. We don't have to worry about it anymore. That's what I'm focused on that's coming this fall. But there's definitely some new characters that I'm just like, oh, okay, this would be interesting. Especially what they've been doing. I mean, manga spoilers. What they've been doing with Broly in the manga. Yeah. Definitely, it opens up a lot more things. Broly versus Frieza. Broly versus, all these other... I mean, I guess we've had that before, but... in a much more full extent battle. So it'll be interesting to see kind of like how it goes. Like Broly versus what's the Gohan's new form?
Gohan Beast.
There we go. Yeah. We have one of those. So you never know. But these definitely, I mean, yes, the approach is hopefully so much new battles, so much what if battles, so much great 3D experience. So it looks really, really good. It looks really, really good, and I'm glad everyone's excited for it because, yeah, it looks fantastic. And
there hasn't been a bad Dragon Ball Z game in a long time. I mean, Kakarot, as simple as it was still enjoyable, right? Mm-hmm. But there just hasn't been one of those like stinkers, like Dragon Ball Z sagas or something like that, in like God knows how long. So, at least for those who are looking for something like this, they're gonna be excited. I'm putting on Broly versus Jiren as soon as I can.
Ooh, okay.
I know that. I'm throwing that down.
So we have that to look forward to. Let's get into what we came to talk about today.
Let's get it.
Which is none other than Netflix's live action adaptation of YuYu Hakusho. It was revealed sometime last year, 2023, that they were going to have this, or at least a trailer dropped for it. It finally landed December, I believe, 13th, 2023. So like I said, right before the holidays. I want to ask you guys a question before we get into the actual, meat and bones of all this other stuff. I'm going to start with you, Jay.
Okay.
What makes YuYu Hakusho enjoyable as a series? Just from the anime and manga standpoint, what makes YuYu Hakusho enjoyable as a series?
The sense of adventure that you get from the characters in each arc that they go into, the bond that you have between the four of them and them individually. Like you've got Yusuke and Kuwabara, Kurama, Hiei, Yusuke and Hiei, Kurama and Kuwabara, right? Like you could pair these characters up and they all like have their own dimension to them. And the cast, it's a really top good cast, to bottom. Yeah. It's really easy to get interested in everybody.
Absolutely. What about you, Jamal? There's 3 J's on this thing. I was about to fuck this up.
That's hilarious. I'm trying to think because there's so many things about it. Like other than the fact that just it's cool. Like it has that it factor where you're just like, this is cool as hell. Like like you said, from the characters to the design to just the storyline. I feel that Yusuke is just such this scrappy character. He's just a street kid essentially. He has no formal martial arts training or anything like that. You really see him grind and work to gain his power and stuff like that. So I don't know, like, and then it's, watching it as a kid, it felt grown up. You know, like this felt more older and more adult than Dragon Ball Z and all these other things. Like they're cussing on here, you know, they're he's sticking up the middle finger. He's doing all these things, on this where you're kind of like, damn, this is, like he's a real badass kid. And so I think it felt, during that time, it probably just felt so different than a lot of other things. I think a lot of other things, just played it a lot more safe. And obviously with our own censoring laws and stuff like that, things had to be changed. But watching this, it felt so more like, okay, here's this real action adventure, you just see this kid kind of get thrown into this world and he has to figure it out, and once again, he's not coming from no formal training or anything like that. He's just the toughest kid on his neighborhood. That's all he is, end of the day. And you just see him go through this whole adventure. And also too, you see that, like, all right, even though he's like that, like he's a real likable character. Like people love Yusuke,
Right.
and you can't help but not love this main character also. And then once again, you just throw in a cast of members that do nothing but just elevate the show. Like you said, the casting is amazing. There's kind of like this this is like the beginning of like some original tropes. Now I won't say the beginning, but like this is like you can tell other quadrants or other teams that are based off this team.
No,
Now,
absolutely. Like even if you look as far as it is today, I think while there's still some um while there's still takes on like what the shonen hero actually is, like this is kind of like one of the few bit departures away from the standard, like I'm the hero, I'm happy, I'm go lucky, all I want to do is win, all I want to do is make friends all along the way, and like Yusuke really
like even think
disrupted
about how
that.
how their friendships even came together felt so organic. Like him
Right,
and like
right.
Kuroda, like they were fighting with each other all the time, but they had they had respect for each other. Like I had respect for him, and he had respect for, and like that's how they're. And then you get in Hiei and Kumura, like how they came in. It's like how everything came together felt so organic. Of like this is how a story of how a team comes together.
That's right.
That's how it felt, and edgy, that's really the word I was looking for. It was like the first edgy anime that I really watched. Like I said, with like some of the content, some of the other stuff, like it felt more adult. I was just like, okay, like this is cool.
I think it's safe to say that a lot of the greatest manga of the past 20 years are all in some way influenced by Yu Yu Hakusho. In the shonen genre, at least.
No, for sure. Like I think any too cool for school antagonist is definitely um influenced by Yusuke, but like you said, it's really the cast of it all, right? It's not all centered. I mean, it is all centered around kind of like one person in a sense, but the cast itself has a lot of like shining moments and like really, you fall in love with each one of them, and not one because they're the hero or they gets to kill over them, but you actually fall in love with actually the characters and their personalities. And like, I remember seeing, oh my god, what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name already? No, I remember seeing Kurama, and I was just like, he's so cool. Like the fact he just steps on screen, and it's just like it's a different level. And then it introduced to Hiei, and it's like my first time watching Yu Yu Hakusho was during the pandemic, and everyone was so jealous. It was like, I can't believe. I wish I could go back and watch it for the first time, and it was really an enjoyable series as it picked up. And I think what the first season of that show did was establish all those characters and relationships and the battles and all these other things that happened. Where by the time you reach the end, you were kind of like on one accord of like this great, core four of these characters, plus everyone who, of course, is next to them. And you really had your favorites from them. So Netflix is
Was like the first pretty boy that I ever saw anime that would like kill you, like absolutely murder you. But like this nigga was just so fly. That shit was crazy. Like he was
he's
like
definitely like right out of the Saint Seiya cast.
I feel like, and this is so interesting now because this one,
Kumino was like a character that belongs on Fruits Basket.
That's funny. I think the thing following this live adaptation release, that it had a lot to live up to was because One Piece was released months before, And essentially, from what we've experienced, I mean, Netflix and there's live action adaptations, it's really hit or miss. And a couple of times it's been missed. And I'm looking at the Cowboy Bebop one. I wasn't mad at the Cowboy Bebop one, but I didn't feel the same ways that I felt while I'm watching the original Cowboy Bebop. And I think that's why it never really hit for me. But I think with the One Piece one, it took its time and it introduced these characters, and you saw the moments and you saw the feels, and you really got to capture the same emotion that you got with the original One Piece, because One Piece really like grabs you, especially that the East Blue saga that they covered for the adaptation. It really grabs you from, once everyone's kind of like involved and their relationship in relation to Luffy, you kind of get to see, like, you kind of really feel for a lot of these characters. And by the end, it was just an overwhelming success. So it had a lot to live up to. Yu Yu Hakusho is one of the greatest anime that ever existed. When you talk about anime, I'm doing this piece and I'm working on, a lot of people are like, oh, what's the first anime that you should watch? And this is recommended so many different times. I would say this should be probably the second one, just so you have a reference for your first one that you watch. But it's I think it had a lot to live up to because of that live adaptation. And I'm not gonna say it's bad, but I think it could have been better had we got a little bit more time to get involved with these characters. I think if it had given the same country and given the same latitude that the One Piece live adaptation experience, and also the same kind of like widespread release. I'm under the shout out to our co-host, the Police Sirens. But I think if given the same attention as the One Piece one does, and I'm not saying that Netflix is like, oh, they don't want to give it attention. I legitimately also don't think this release was for us. I think this was predominantly this is a global kind of release, and I think we just got it because there are a lot of anime fans in the United States. That's where I'm kind of like living and dying with this. I don't think this was for us. I think this was for essentially Japan and the rest of the globe, and actually this was really successful worldwide. I'm not sure how successful it was in the United States, but worldwide, this Netflix series, it ended up going number one on the Netflix global charts. A lot of people watched it, all these other things. Not sure how much that translates into the United States. I don't think it was for us, but I'm glad that we got it nonetheless. Jay, what are your kind of like early thoughts? Or just overall thoughts. How about that? Before we get into early thoughts, because we can get into the nooks and cranny of this series, but what are your kind of like overall thoughts on this thus far?
Yeah, you brought up on a really good point just now. This is a Japanese TV show, and we got it because it's on Netflix. If this wasn't distributed by Netflix, this would have been a TV show that, let me go find the fan subs online.
Yeah.
And I'll go watch it and see what it's about, right? Otherwise, it's the same as like the JoJo's live action or the Bleach live action. I mean, it wound up on
Neverland one or the Attack on Titan.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like these are all Japanese productions. Now, if I'm going to compare it to those, it stands out, man. It stands out because there's a lot of those Japanese productions where it's like, okay, that like the Attack on Titan one, like you just mentioned, right? It's such a departure from the reality of that series that it's like, I'm not watching that again, right? Whereas this Yu Yu Hakusho series, if I'm taking it from the standpoint of a Japanese TV show, it hits a lot more than it misses, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's only 5 episodes. If, like you said, if it was given the same country, like a 9-10 episode run, we would have gotten a better reception from it, because then we would have time to sort of break things into story arcs, as opposed to a chain of events all happening from the moment that Yusuke's resurrected.
And it doesn't seem like there's going to be a season 2, to be honest with you. Once I reach the end, I mean, it could be a season 2 if they develop some sort of, if they go, chapter black. But the way they kind of like I think with fans of anime, and Netflix has spent the last year and change saying like, listen, we take this anime shit very, very seriously, and it's a very popular thing, and we want to be very, very not careful, but essentially we want to help pretty much continue to distribute this and take advantage of all the IP and all the other stuff like that. But I think, yeah, it could have been a little bit more. It could have been, and the kind of like the plot changes from the original source material definitely makes you like, huh? Like, essentially, like, to me, this ends up, especially the first half of this, ends up like going into more like Karate Kid than actually Yu Yu Hakusho. But Jamal, what were your kind of like thoughts on this?
Yeah. That's so crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a point there.
Jamal, go ahead.
No, I get what you're saying when you say that. It's just funny because I couldn't have made that connection. Only you could do something like that. But no, I think it was so I didn't watch, and to be honest, I haven't watched the anime in probably like 2 years. But I purposely was like, I'm not gonna watch it before and even after I watched the live action series, because I just wanted to take it for what it was and take it for what it is, and not feel that I had to like sit there and compare it storyline by storyline. I think that once again, it is very obvious this is not made for an American audience at all in mind. But also too, I think that's what makes it special for what it is, especially once again, like Jay said, when you watch things that are in that same realm, there's definitely some that are much like subpar. But this one definitely is a standout. I think even with the condensed story, they did the best that they kind of could within 5 episodes. It is very obvious that they were not writing this with the expectation either of this is gonna go seasons or gonna get some seasons or whatever. But no, I think that overall though, they captured in their own weird way, they I think they did their best capturing that feeling that you get from watching Yu Yu Hakusho, especially from like the set design and just
I think the characters,
like I think just like, even just the clothes is how they're able to, the costume designer, like whatever they, they're able to just get that look and that feel.
And that's really cool so important. That's so important because I mean we're all still traumatized by the live action Dragon Ball thing that kind of like changed it up. That used too much creative freedom. To kind of really like take it away and essentially like we're making this for American audiences and essentially not trusting the source material enough that it would translate over to American audiences, which was the first mistake that they kind of had, along with like several others that have happened afterwards. But this one definitely, I mean, it holds true costume design. I think the characters in itself, I mean, the characters managed to stay true to essentially who they are in a sense. A lot of the humor, I think, is kind of like stripped back a little bit more, which I would have liked to see a little bit more of. Again, I think one of the things of One Piece live action did was like still capture a little bit of the humor situations within the thing, and there's so much humor in the original Yu Yu Hakusho. This one was kind of like you're getting into, at some point it becomes like, I mean, there's a little bit of Karate Kid, there's a little bit like, John Wick, there's a little bit
there's definitely some Wick in there.
Yeah.
There's definitely some Wick.
It's a little, not that they were taking it as inspirations, but like kind of like the tropes. You see the tropes less of the anime thing and more tropes of like standard movie and entertainment. And that's kind of like where I think where they use that to kind of like flip the events of actually that happened in the show, because I like the fact that, here's all I'll say that I like it in comparison to the anime. I like the fact that it established the villain incredibly early and it stayed throughout the rest of throughout I guess the entire show, which I guess they kind of have to do. because the first season in the anime is, thing by arcs, and you don't really get to Toguro until somewhat into the season. This one says, hey, he is the main villain. He is the end all be all. He is the final boss, and we're going to introduce him here, and he's going to become this like looming force throughout the show. And I think that was a great kind of like through line piece that I think if they ever, I've said this before. Again, I'm going to ask it at the end of the show. So I'm not going to ask it now because I want to see what Jay's reaction will be. But it's a nice little like through point through the show. But I would like to know like what were your guys' favorite moments of the series. I'll start with you, Jay, because I know you watch this and you source material, everything you got it like down pat. So what were your favorite moments from this?
Man, what I really loved about this show is that it is a live action adaptation of the manga and not necessarily the anime.
Okay.
There's little things that happen in the manga or that are hinted at in the manga that are thinly veiled here. Like you see Yusuke smoking cigarettes, like which is not a big deal we're all grown, right? But like in the anime, they don't really show him doing that because he's supposed to be like
he's a kid. Can't do it on TV.
He's exactly.
He's a delinquent.
He's a delinquent. Yeah, he's one of those Yankee delinquent kids. You know what I mean?
Four kids would have took that out immediately, bro.
Exactly.
Imagine four kids YuYu Hakusho.
A 4 kids YuYu Hakusho would have been crazy.
It would have been nuts.
Oh my god. Kuwabara would have been 10 times wackier. It would have been nuts.
Would have had a Jersey accent. I know it.
Oh, yeah. Joey Wheeler and Kuwabara would have the same voice. Easy. Oh, God. But, like little things like the city feeling really lived in, right? Like it felt like it was that real, like small Japanese city, sort of like simple middle of nowhere town that they tried to give you the essence of in the manga and the anime. You could really get that feeling here. As far as moments from the entire show, man, I gotta say I really loved how they portrayed Toguro, the both of them, as really close to their characters as possible. Like if we're gonna talk about like characters that really didn't miss anything, in terms of how they were shown, they were 1 for 1 almost. Tarukane, best live action adaptation character of like 1-to-1 character from anime to TV ever, man. They casted that guy like I was like, yo, like where did you find this guy? He looks just like Tarukane. That's nuts. All of his character, like all of the humor, the goofy like anime activity, he was that character. He was the comic relief. You know what I mean? It was really funny to see him like be bewildered as just a normal rich human in this world of like demons and stuff. Just like, what the fuck is going on? Like the characterization for him was just perfect. Love it. The casting for this show too, like.
No, the cast.
What? The casting director
this is gonna go over our heads, but like they had like basically Japanese Pam Grier as Genkai. You know what I mean? Like the actress for Genkai was the actress who had been like the Japanese film star of the 70s. Basically, like Revenge for Lady Snowblood. That was her.
You saying Pam Grier is nuts?
Yeah, bro. I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to say it
because when I think of Grier, I think of like 70s action actresses. I'm thinking of her before I think of Sigourney Weaver. You know what I'm saying?
Got you.
So, like, that's why
just the visual is nuts.
Your head's gonna go somewhere different from what I meant from that. But in terms of like that iconic action actress from that time period, that was her, and that's huge that they did that sort of thing for that series.
Shout out the funniest thing, not the funniest thing about Genkai, but like I'm like they really got this like old lady in like a lace front, like a Megan Thee Stallion-esque lace front. That's just like I'm like, damn, Genkai the Stallion over here. Like you really got like this very like Genkai, like, she got hair, but like it is not luscious like this. I was like, damn, you could have just, I don't know where regular hair is, but you know, I was just like, wow, this is kind of funny just to watch.
They made sure, like, no, like we're gonna pay real good homage to that character.
Yeah, absolutely. Pompadour for Yusuke, everything. Like, they got it all.
Oh man, yeah. Got the action in this show was like straight out of any sort of like Japanese live action show you might watch that has something like that. Like I felt like I was like, okay, when's Yusuke gonna bust out his henshin belt, bro? Because like this is turning into like a Kamen Rider fight when he's fighting Goki. It was really well done. They really went out of their way to give you that sort of like, hey, suspend your disbelief. This is an anime fight,
right?
Sort of vibe in every single fight, and it didn't look hokey. I really liked it.
Jamal, as someone who loves watching violence, how are the fights for you in this series?
I'm trying to rebrand, bro. I don't know, quit calling me the violent one.
I mean, it's more violent than me, but still.
But the action was amazing.
You're multifaceted. Don't hold it on. Don't hold it against yourself.
But no, the action was amazing. The choreography on the fights was, like I said, Yusuke is he's a delinquent street kid. He has no formal like martial arts training, and that's how the fights felt. It didn't feel like, like they felt like, fights that you would see on the street. Especially the way that he was fighting like with characters, but also too, the way that he's able to adapt. Though they didn't just like keep him as that. He was able to adapt and learn and like add and mix his own style in. So the fact that you kind of seen his like fighting style even progress throughout the series, I think even the effects were like looked good for the for like Kuno's power and all them, and like Hiei's fight. I'm trying to think what else.
Can I tell you a favorite part of mine? I like the through line of a couple of the episodes, especially during the training kind of part, of like the arrogance of Yusuke versus like the hard work and earnestness of Kuwabara. And I think that's something that they play off a little bit in the, I mean, I'm referencing the anime. I haven't read the manga ever.
No, it's way stronger in the TV show than it was in both.
Yeah. But this, it's like, it shows you like, I mean, there's a little bit of arrogance because he's just naturally, Yusuke is an ass kicker and he just takes all kind of names. And there's an arrogance with the power that he has, but you can see Kuwabara really, 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 really wants to be like really good at this, and he sees the work, and it's enough to inspire Yusuke to actually like turn it around for himself. And I thought that was a great kind of like if thing that I think maybe could have been highlighted more in the original source. That was definitely like compounded here. I thought that was amazing. And when he slices the rock, I was like, oh man, totally, like, fuck out of here. And I mean, there's plenty of favorite moments. I know we got more over here because there's a lot. I mean, one of my favorite moments is also like Kuwabara's running away from this like evil dinosaur mutant Jazz, and immediately as he gets to the next fight, his like spirit sword comes out, and they're like, "Why didn't you use that shit the first time?" And because that's exactly what I'm saying. He's like boiling tanks and throwing trash cans and chairs in front of this thing, and it's like, wait a minute, why couldn't you just use this the first time? I thought we mastered this by now. But so I thought that was funny.
I mean, listen, he folded as soon as he saw Yukino. He didn't think about none of that. He was like, nah, bro, listen, I gotta protect the baddie. Like, all that training flew out the window.
Hey, the best part is when he kicks Kiko out the way. Like, legit kicks
he drop kicked her.
He drop kicked her to move her. That'd be in tears.
Keiko busting out the sleeper hold on the guard.
Oh yeah, Keiko having hands I was like, all right.
and like being like, "Yo, Yusuke's wrestling training really came through." Like, I could just imagine them watching like All Japan back in the '90s, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you got to do this whole like right here. Like that's how you're gonna get people." It's so hilarious.
I agree. Other favorite parts. Where are we at? I mean,
man, there's a shot, and when Keiko gets kidnapped, but it's like right before that when they're in the ramen shop and he's eating the ramen and just how it's like one of the coolest fucking shots in the whole series. It's so tight.
And let's talk about the shot that sold us for the series as well, which is one that ended up on social media first. The man getting hit by the car. I was like, damn, that's really
man.
I was like, that's too lifelike. I was like, damn,
for real. It was like boom, and then he just tumbled over. I was like, oh no,
all the budget on that one shot.
I'm sure, because that was real. I was like, damn, we really got it, because they don't really show you it in the anime. It's implied he was hit by the car. It's like, you know.
He was hit by that motherfucking car.
He was. Yeah. It was nuts. But the thing about, what's crazy is, I feel like by the time, especially in the original one with YuYu Hakusho, the original first 5 episodes and kind of like the tone from that completely. I mean, the series has to evolve, so I completely get it.
Mm-hmm.
But the tone completely shifts from where it was the first 5 episodes of the show to where it is like pretty much for the rest of the series. Because I thought initially when I was watching Yu Yu Hakusho, I was like, oh, this is about to be like this ghost detective goes on and solves all these like ghost crimes and all this other stuff like that. And he's got to save it so he can live in this world, and he's got to save other people as well and earn his stripes, and maybe he earns his wings. I don't know what it is. Nah, it becomes none of that. Koenma is still interesting in this series. Would have loved to see him as a baby.
That CGI would have been atrocious.
Yeah, it just is what it is. But nah, everything. I mean, the casting, everything is kind of like really. I would say the casting is the best part of this. The characters is the best part of this.
Man, the casting. Once again. It's like the characters. That's such the saving grace for this entire series, because it's like, even with the storyline, right? Yes, it's condensed. We, whatever they can say about the storyline.
I mean, people are definitely going to complain because it's essentially not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But if you really think about, okay, imagine if Yu Yu Hakusho actually had this storyline, though. This is exactly how all the characters would act and be and all that. Like, they embodied the character. So even though the story is completely different, in my head, I'm just like, that's some shit that Yusuke would actually do, or that's some shit that Hiei would actually fucking do. Like they stayed true enough to the story of like these characters and how they are, and they just kind of, they chopped and screwed and remixed it how they needed to.
The show was basically Yu Yu Hakusho for dummies. Yeah, you got some pages ripped out, but you still know what
you get and so it's like when you go into the anime, obviously you're getting a much, or even especially the manga, you're getting a much out, more fleshed out story, but you start to understand, like, this is like a good primer. Like, low-key, you can show this to somebody and be like, this is what the story of Yu Yu Hakusho is like, kind of about.
You could really show someone, like, this is why I like Yu Yu Hakusho, and they would get the gist of it. For
this is part. Like, to be honest, if anyone ever asked me to show them, you said what?
Are we showing this to Kev on stage?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that someone's like, all right, can I see a live action anime or something like that? I'd show them this. Like, this would be one of my top choices to show them.
For sure. Because you still get the essence of, like, this still feels like the anime, right? Like, yeah, Yusuke's not making goofy faces at Keiko and whatnot, but like, you still get what's true to the characters, their main drive, and yeah, like, you're not the things you are missing. You tell them, "Hey, go watch the anime," and then they're like, "Whoa, I didn't know they do all that too." They wouldn't feel like, they're like, "Oh, I don't like that show now." It wouldn't be that sort of reaction.
No, of course. Yeah. But also, I also feel like if I told someone to watch this before, I think, especially someone who's American, they would think this is a lot more Karate Kid than the actual show. There's something about this. I mean, it's a condensed part of it, and it's really like the lack of like to really get people into series, you kind of it takes time. You want to get through this quick, but it also takes time, and people are willing to invest the time if it's really, really good.
Yeah.
If you get involved with the characters, it's like the Scott Pilgrim series that's on Netflix, really, really good. Took its time a little bit. People will get invested to it, especially towards the end. I even think if granted, I don't know, the Cowboy Bebop one, it had enough episodes.
Okay, here's my thing about the Cowboy Bebop one. This is what makes me mad so much is that now that's something that low key they rolled out the fucking red carpet for you exactly how to do this entire fucking series in the anime. And all you really kind of had to do is just figure out a way to copy and paste.
No, I think with
the tone for me was just off. That noir feeling was just off. That shit did not feel to me how I wanted that shit to.
It's tough to recreate that feeling just because of how much time.
I felt they try to once again they try to do too much of a. I felt they were freestyling the kitchen a little too much with that one.
You need time to recreate that feeling. I think with the the Cowboy Bebop one, because it's like certain story arcs that need to get kind of like established throughout. It took time with the original Cowboy Bebop. Like some things, and a lot of these things, you got involved with the characters because there are these episodic kind of very kooky missions that.
And I'm glad you bring that up.
Yeah, that started and ended within the same episode, so you kind of got like a full breath kind of like thing. You can watch the first 5 episodes of the series and you can not watch the rest of them, but you can still enjoy the series. It's like, oh, I love Cowboy Bebop. Whereas this one was a lot more story based. I think if it had, I mean, there's a lot of things I would do that's different, but
because see what I get from that live action Cowboy Bebop is that the director really enjoyed those episodic episodes a lot more than the 6 episodes in the show that really make the whole plot. Right?
Yeah.
And since the focus on those core episodes that everyone really loves Cowboy Bebop for wasn't there, they walk away like, wait, hang on. So we're just doing the goofy stuff?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that if the creator of Cowboy Bebop made Cowboy Bebop today, it would have been a lot more like the live action TV show. Because I mean, you can look like Space Dandy, and that gives you a good idea of what kind of weight he's on.
Space Dandy live action will go so hard.
It would be amazing. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like because people have that idea of what Cowboy Bebop is, and this show doesn't really touch on that as much, it's easier to say, oh, that's not what we want from a live action anime.
Right. But does YuYu Hakusho accomplish that? Kind of like what I think was missing with that Cowboy Bebop adaptation, which really, I don't know. I feel like most people didn't give it a chance before it got released.
Yeah.
Because I do think there were good parts of it, and I think if there was a season 2, I would have watched season 2. It wasn't all bad for me. But I think most people wrote it off before it was actually released, just based on trailers, based on shows, based on screen caps. This is not how it is. It's not how it's supposed to be. A lot of it, and then also like a lot of the fights and all the other stuff, I completely get it. It was really. I will say the casting also. I will say the casting also. I feel like, no offense to what's my man name? Who's the main character?
John Cho.
Yeah.
Spike Spiegel.
From what I remember, yes. I don't remember if him having the charm that I think would have been great for the main character, as much as how much I see the main character for Luffy.
He was too much bounty hunter.
Yeah, I mean, there's no smoothness to John Cho. Like, not enough. Yeah, I don't think that I would have done that or went in that route with him. But I guess everyone wanted, again, this multicultural experience. But it didn't hit as much with me as it did with like the Luffy that comes with this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things with the Cowboy Bebop that went wrong. But do you feel like this Yu Yu Hakusho accomplishes where, kind of like that Cowboy Bebop, where it failed in a sense, where it failed to kind of like connect? Do you feel a connection to this series as you watch this during those 5 episodes?
I do, because it has the opposite issue of Cowboy Bebop, where they wanted to focus on the major plot lines and say, like, let's get rid of some of the minor things that they thought really, could be removed. The only problem is that there's a lot of emotional punches that you don't get in the live action Yu Yu Hakusho. So I can see where people do have that argument, but it doesn't keep the show from being a success. It doesn't keep you from feeling the same essence of Yu Yu Hakusho the way that Cowboy Bebop misses the mark for most people.
Jamal, what are your kind of like thoughts? Do you feel like this hit the mark with a connection with you, that maybe even similar to the One Piece one, in kind of like how it was actually delivered, the performance of it, how it was delivered?
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's good enough for me to count this in the Hakusho universe, in the Yu Yu universe. Like, I'll say, like, once again,
as a form of media instead of like Dragon Ball Evolution, which we don't even.
Yeah, like if people talk about it, want to talk about some, Yu lore. Okay, cool. Now you got the live action over here. That's it's good enough for me to really I would recommend somebody to watch it, especially if someone goes, was there ever a good live action anime? I'll say, well, the Yu Yu Hakusho TV show, like, it was good. And it's enjoyable to watch. I think, once again, I really wanted to take it as its own thing. I didn't want to watch it with the thought in my mind of, I want this to, do what the anime does, because it's, even though I literally just ragged on fucking Cowboy Bebop for doing this, but you know what? Fuck them, because I really felt that was a layup. But no, like, is definitely hard to catch a feeling that like animation anime can give you. Like, there's so much more that you can do in that space than you can do in a live action space. But I think there's what they did gave you that feeling once again. Like, that's all I was just kind of looking for. Like, does this give me the Yu Yu Hakusho feeling? And the cast, they sold me. Like, once again, like, the performances of the cast was just like, all right, fuck the story. Like, you guys, like, I really I'm looking at like Yusuke on the fucking screen, on the screen. Like, I'm really in this moment of like, whoa, like, I'm seeing these characters move and breathe and like in their own little storyline, in their own little universe. As I said, like, I would count this in with the story. That's why I'm like, obviously, yes, they had their, they missed the mark on a couple things, but it was never enough for me to be like, man, this just whack. But no, I think though what they did, and especially because it's very obvious, it's looking like we're not getting a second season of this. It seems like a very much standalone thing. I think as a standalone thing, this was, it went really well, and I'm happy they didn't kind of put themselves in a position where like, okay, well, if it does good, we got to do a season 2, because I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't think you can do 2 seasons back to back of this. Like, I think it's just a good standalone main story. I think One Piece is really setting itself up to be like, okay, no, we're trying to do this whole saga, so like we can really, dig deep or like get deep with what we're trying to do here. This is like someone was just trying to make the best little Yu Yu Hakusho mini series they possibly could, and they did.
Right. I'm mixed, right? So, there's a large part of me that enjoys. I get it and I respect it, right? And I think it captures it in a lot of things that we've said in terms of like, if you want someone to kind of capture the essence of Yu Yu Hakusho, you can watch the series and still kind of get that. But there's also a part of me that says I probably won't ever watch this again. and that's probably because of a lot of, and maybe it's my own anime bias and all this other stuff like that, but like the content of the actual series itself, I think once it reaches a certain, once Toguro shows up at Genkai's mansion and then offs her, I think I'm totally out of the series. Because I realized then, I was like, oh, this is the part where it doesn't become what it is.
There is one moment though. There is one moment, and it's the passing of the spirit orb where I was just like,
it just happened.
That right. That's just because in the anime, that is such a pivotal moment where you're
that's what I was referring to earlier.
It's such a pivotal moment. That's one of maybe two, maybe three gripes I have. No more than three. Definitely two.
Yeah, it's just a moment. She's just like, hey, you're going to need this power in the live action. Whereas like he has to literally fight for his life in order to get that power. And, you know, that scene made me immediately realize, hey, where's Pooh at? Yeah. Like I was like, hang on, wait.
As an anime watcher who, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone outside of anyone who watches anime would watch this. Only because in the United States, it isn't marketed towards everybody. I think One Piece, big market, big market.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're making that for Western fans too.
Right,
that's
right. And especially with the casting and everything.
Yeah.
With the casting and everything, of course. But this one, it definitely isn't marketed towards us, but that's fine. I've taken that into account. Like I said, this wasn't for us. But I do feel like the stark differences in the series, not that I was like, oh, we could do this and expand for season 2. But I was just like, all right, so we just got her and now you killed her. And now it's like, now this becomes this kind of like, he doesn't even realize she's dead until like damn near the last episode. But I think you took it and then you kind of made it like this the standard action plot, which is why I compared it to the John Wicks and the Karate Kids and all these other
like, oh, you killed my master.
Yeah, you killed my master and now I'm out for revenge kind of vibe. And you kidnapped my sister and now I'm out for revenge. You kidnapped my girlfriend that I don't treat right anyway. Now I'm out for revenge. And it becomes this entire ordeal. And yes, I mean, that's in some of the source material that is definitely a thing, but there's so much that's involved that beyond that, and beyond just that surface level, I'm going for revenge kind of vibe. There's so much development of characters, but to be honest with you, they have 5 episodes. They're probably like, we gotta get this shit over with. And that's that.
And that's exactly true. Which is why, you know, when you touch on like, hey, they could. I think it stands to reason that they really aren't going to do one. I mean, the whole reason for Chapter Black is gone. Like they gave that to Sakyo. The whole opening of the whole Demon World, like they just made that a B plot. So we really,
guess that's not happening anymore.
Yeah. Hell, even Toguro was like, "Oh, I want to go to Demon World because I want to fight stronger demons." Okay, Sensui, all right, I guess you do. Like, we would just rush right to the Demon World tournament, and nobody wants that.
Yeah, so and then
we can do without it.
My favorite episode, YuYu Hakusho is the Toguro and Genkai one. It's really well done in the show.
Yes.
And one, they use the great animators on it. But it's like this very, I don't know, there's something about it that like reminds me of a SZA album. But it's very like lucid and also very like real and like these emotions that were kind of being kept aside. You get a different side of Genkai, you get a different side of Toguro. You kind of get to see them in their past forms. It's very briefly explored that like, yes, they trained together and this was a thing and blah blah blah. But again, not fully played out like it is in the anime, and it just kind of like happens, and you just like, you know, they accept their faults but respect one another, and it kind of just continues from there. And I'm just like, okay. And then also, if you're gonna end this and not really do the not really go into season 2. Adapt the ending of the series. The final episode is one of the best episodes, one of the best final episodes of any anime that's ever existed. It's I would adapt it in an interesting way, but I don't know. Maybe they do expect some sort of tournament thing that'll be different. But
God, I'm praying this is just a.
I'm good if this is it. This is it.
Yeah, I just what I need, bro. I just need the little 5 episodes that I can go back when I ever want to, even though I never rewatch anything. If I rewatch something twice, I really love it.
Yeah.
More than twice. Like, okay, if I rewatch it twice, I'm like, okay, this is a banger. If I watch it more than twice, I'm in love.
Right.
But nah, I can go back, peep the episode 2 and episode 3. Those are 2 really good episodes.
So I want to ask 2 questions. I'm pretty sure Jamal have asked you this before, so I'm not even going to bother with you on this one. Jay, YuYu Hakusho itself. If somehow they announce in 2024 that YuYu Hakusho was somehow returning for something, what is the best way that you would want it to return? Continuation, a reboot, a reanimation, and sort of a Kai kind of vibe. How would you want? What would be like your? If you had to do this in your wildest dreams, wildest fantasies, it comes back. How would you want to receive it?
You know how like they brought back Rurouni Kenshin and it's a new anime studio, and like they're just like, hey, we're just giving you the story again. Like it's just that, and we're breaking it up into a few seasons, and there it is. That's what I would want. I would want just a newly animated Yu Yu Hakusho. The animation, I think it was Studio Pierrot that did the OVAs back in 2018. Like the characters just looked like really great with that sort of animation. That give that studio the chance to just, hey, like here's the whole thing all over again. Because it ends in a way where, you know, the only way we could ever get it to a continuation is if somebody would use the Dragon Balls on Togashi and like healed him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's the only way. And we all know from how it ended, how he feels about that ending and how he feels like, you know, like, hey, like, sorry, my health was deteriorating. I couldn't do more. So that's why it ends the way it does. So I would be fine with just seeing the original story all over again. Maybe flesh out some things, right? Maybe like make the Demon World tournament a little bit longer or something like that. Like maybe give us reasons to care about those characters more towards the end a little bit more. But that's all they would really need to do. Okay. In my eyes.
Second question I have, and this is for both of you guys. This is for all 3 of us.
Yeah, so you want to leave me out on the last question? That's okay.
I feel like I asked you that question before.
No, you have. As soon as you asked it, I was like, I'll do it. As soon as you said that, I was like, I know what question you're asking for.
If Dragon Ball could do a live action again, what part of Dragon Ball would you adapt for live action? To say like this is what it's all about.
You gotta do one of the Dragon Ball stories. You can't do you gotta do Dragon Ball. That's the first thing. They did any of the tournaments. Do 10. Oh my god, 10 would be
22nd. Oh my god, yeah.
10 would be crazy.
Give me the same way they did Yu Yu Hakusho and make it 10 episodes, bullet points, and we go all the way through the 21st. Season 2 does Red Ribbon and 22nd type joint. You know what I mean? Season 3, King Piccolo. Season 4, 23rd. Boom.
What's the part where he...
Red Ribbon Army will be hard too.
Nah, I was trying to think. Red Ribbon Army was where my brain was at. But essentially the story is to collect these 7 Dragon Balls, so we'd have to like incorporate that as well.
Yeah. And that's why I say, you know, just do the first one as like up to
the 21st. Right, where you can get
so that way you have
Master Roshi and all the
characters. And you got Pilaf's your mid boss. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then it's like, oh, like, so what do we do now? Well, there's this tournament, and then we end the season building up towards that.
But the thing about Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, is there's so much. It would be a very big tone shift because there's so much humor in it, and with live action, they tend to dramatize a lot of things.
Yeah, they'd have to One Piece it.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be One Piece because they tend to dramatize a lot of different things. I don't want Goku still has to be very, very aloof with all of this other things like that, but also still stirring and strong when it comes to saving his friends and stuff. But I think that would be a great way to go. I would choose, again, the opening arc. Red Ribbon is another major one. To be honest with you, the King Piccolo Jr. vibe.
Yeah.
All of Dragon Ball can be adapted, to be honest with you. It's Z that gets into it interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
These too much effects. It's too reliant on effects. Once you start getting into transformations and you getting all these other things, like
will movies ever be there?
Nah, not really.
Like I don't. No.
I don't know, because there is definitely, I think, the first couple arcs of Dragon Ball Z, there's definitely, no, it's too battle based, to be honest with you. It starts with a battle, some training in the middle, there's another battle, more battles.
The only thing from Dragon Ball Z that would be easy to do is Gohan training by himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to think, and we can't do a show of just that.
Because I like the through line of Dragon Ball Z to the beginning to the end of the Frieza saga. I think that's the most. If Dragon Ball Z ended at the Frieza saga, I think it would be. You would tell a very complete kind of like story.
It's a live action TV show for sure.
Yeah. It's the stuff that kind of like happens afterwards that kind of like gets. I mean, people love it, but
damn, bro. Hey, no joke. If Dragon Ball Z ended at Frieza, it would hands down easily be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. Because I think it's there's a little bit.
Oh my gosh! If they told that whole story and stopped there, no more.
Go ahead. Nah.
Oh, it would be the GOAT for real. That would be the perfect. I never thought about that. Wow.
It doesn't realize Gohan. As much as,
but it does complete Goku.
Yes, but it does complete Goku in a sense. But it doesn't like fully realize Gohan in terms of like what they're hinting at the beginning of the series.
Yeah,
but I think it would
then if you end it there, you could end it with this hanging like, Vegeta could always come back and challenge Goku again type shit. Who knows?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, who knows? But I'm pretty sure they would bring it back.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This has been great, Jay. Thank you for blessing us with your knowledge and your expertise and your time and all this other stuff on the lookout.
Man, thank you for giving me a chance to talk about this live action show. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
LJ, we will be back in 2 weeks. Because we're getting into
it's time for me to take on a whole new personality.
Yeah, we'll be back with, I'm not the biggest fan of alchemy, but we can get in some alchemy. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get in some alchemy, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. We are beginning that series, as everyone, as I said at the top of the show, February 19th. We'll be back with that. I'm interested to go through it. Quick, Jay, before we go, what was your favorite part of the YuYu Hakusho? The Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood thing. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is that we get Hohenheim's story like fully fleshed out.
I love that.
And when you see how that all played out, I was just like, oh man, this is why this is one of the best shows ever.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, hey, listen, if y'all need a guest when we get towards the later arcs, count me in, because I only got a chance to talk about King Bradley. There's so much more to talk about on that show. So
listen, we're gonna definitely have you down, because to be honest, I forgot. I mean, I know the big points of the show, but I've legitimately forgot how it went because I've only seen it once. I've experienced it, is what I'll say. Once is an experience. After that, you're kind of like, and you're just watching it. But I look forward to going through this series, and I'm going to maybe I'll start next week. I'm not going to go through it too much, too early, too soon kind of vibe, because I still want to keep the pace of the actual show. But we'll let you guys know which episodes you need to watch before you listen to the episode, and everyone can tune in with us. But until then, you can follow us at The Lookout RNC on Twitter. You can follow us at The Lookout RNC on Instagram. You can follow us at The Lookout RNC on YouTube. And pretty much anywhere where you listen to podcasts, you can find this. Also, previous episodes of Subs Lie, Dubs Lie, if you want to hear what Jay and D are talking about every episode. Like we said, Subs Lie, Dubs Lie Season 4, definitely coming soon. So
very soon.
Make sure you guys stay subscribed and stay ready for all of that. And yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode of The Lookout, unless some shit crazy happens that we need to like hop on. But like,
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope something wild happens in the anime world. They gonna announce Super this week.
If they
Super
do,
anime, yeah,
we'll do an emergency pod for sure. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.